Today I'm going to be showing you how to hand crochet a blanket using the single crochet, and all you're going to need is yarn. You're going to be using your hand as the crochet hook. So I'll be using Premier Yarn's Deborah Norville Serenity Active yarn, and this is in the color dark gray. This is a number 6 super bulky yarn. Just keep that in mind if you want to use a different kind of yarn. I'm going to be using 3 strands at one time, as if they're one strand, just to make it thicker. So I have over here you can't see them, but a strand coming from each skein. And then I have a pile of yarn over here that I've already pulled out of the skeins just for the sake of the video to help it move along a little bit easier. So let's get right into it. The first thing you want to do is, with all 3 of your strands, make a slip knot. So drape the yarn over your hand, pinch the 2 ends together, or the 2 sides together, twist your hand away from you and grab the working yarn, pulling it up through that loop. The working yarn is the yarn that's attached to the skeins. You're going to then make a chain of 30. I'm doing a chain of 30 for my blanket. That will end up being the width of my blanket. You can do less or more. Insert your index finger and thumb into the loop. Grab the working yarn and pull it through. That's a chain of 1. I'm going to keep mine a little bit loose. That way they're easier to find when I'm doing my first row of single crochet. Again, insert your fingers into the loop. Pull the yarn through. That's a chain 2. 3. 4. 5. That one was a little bit loose. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. Okay, so we have our chain of 30 stitches. So now we're going to crochet our first row using single crochet. And you want to remember, when you do each row, you want to start in the second chain or the second stitch from your loop that your fingers are in. Don't count the one that your fingers are in. So this would be your first chain here, and this would be your second chain here. So we're going to go into the second chain, and to do that you're going to insert your index finger and your thumb into the loop. Use your index finger to go through that second chain, pull up the working yarn. Now you have 2 loops on your fingers, okay, and then you're going to grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. That was your first single crochet. Now you're going to go into the next chain and you're going to do a single crochet. So insert your fingers into the loop, go through the next chain with your index finger, pull up the working yarn. Now you have 2 loops on your hand. Grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. And again, I'm keeping this a little bit loose. That way it's easier to work in the next row. It's easier to find your stitches that way. Okay, and now we're going to go on to the next chain. This would be the third one. Insert your fingers into the loop. Take your index finger, go into that next chain, pull up the working yarn. Now you have 2 loops on your fingers. Grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. Fourth chain. Insert your fingers into the loop. Take your index finger, go into the chain and pull up the working yarn. Now you have 2 loops on your fingers. Grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. And 5. Grab the working yarn and pull it through. You have 2 loops on your fingers. Grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. And then on to chain 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're just going to continue doing a single crochet into each chain across. So I have 20 more to go. Once I'm done with my 30 chain or my 30 single crochet, I'm going to come back and show you how to start your second row. I'm doing my last single crochet for the first row. And then what we're going to do is make a chain 1. So just insert your fingers into the loop, grab the working yarn and pull it through to create a chain 1. And then we're going to turn our work. The second row is a little bit easier to find your stitches. And in the second row, you're going to be going under both of these loops here. Okay, so remember that as you go along this row to go under both loops. So insert your fingers into the loop, take your index finger, grab the working yarn and pull it. Whoops, make sure you get all 3 strands. So grab the working yarn and pull it up. Now you have 2 loops on your fingers. Grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. That was your first single crochet in your second row. Find the next stitch, go under both loops there with your index finger, pull up the working yarn. Now you have 2 loops on your hands. Grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. That was 2. And again, find the next stitch, go through with your index finger, pull up the working yarn. Now you have 2 loops on your fingers, and grab the working yarn and pull it through both loops. That was 3. And again, 4. Find the next stitch, pull up the working yarn, and pull the working yarn through both loops. If you ever lose track of how many you've done, you can always go back and count these stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next stitch, be number 6. Next one, 7. And I'm doing my last stitch here, my last single crochet. And again, we're going to chain 1 by pulling the working yarn through that loop. And then we're going to turn our work to move on to row 3. So for row 3, we're going to do the same thing as row 2. And remember to skip the first stitch. So do a single crochet in the second stitch. 2, 3. It really does get easier to find the stitches as you go. As long as you work a little bit loose, it should be pretty easy for you. And we're going to move on to the 4th stitch, 5th stitch, 6, Now I'm on the last stitch of our 3rd row. I'm going to do my single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to turn my work to move on to row 4. Okay, and now again, same as row 3 and 2, we're going to skip this first stitch. Hopefully you can see that there's a stitch there. Move on to your second stitch here. Insert your finger and pull up a loop. Now you have 2 loops on your fingers and pull the working yarn through both loops. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So one of the great things about hand crocheting rather than arm knitting is you can put the project down when you need to and come back to it. You don't have to take any stitches off of your arms. So a lot of people might prefer this over arm knitting for that one reason. So now I am doing my last single crochet in the 4th row. And we're going to move on to row 5. So remember to do your chain 1. Okay, and then you're going to turn your work and begin working row 5. We're going to start in the second stitch from your fingers, so skip that first one, go to your second one, and single crochet across the entire row of stitches. There's 2, 3, now I'm going to go ahead and make my chain 1 and move on to row 6. Turn your work and begin your single crochet in the second stitch from your fingers. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you get that last stitch in every row, that way you have a straight edge on your blanket. Chain 1, turn your work, and move on to row 7. And I'm still on my first 3 skeins of yarn over there, and I'm moving on to row 7. So go into the second stitch from your fingers and crochet, single crochet across the entire row. 3. Now I'm going to move on to my 8th row. So chain 1 and turn my work. And this is how tall or long my blanket is so far. Okay, if you can see, it's about 7 or so inches. And we're on to row 8, and I'm still working on my first 3 skeins of yarn. And you can see how wide this is. I'll have all of the measurements and how many skeins I've used on my blog. For now, we'll move on to row 8, and then I'm going to show you how to end your blanket. So that was 29. We have one more stitch here to single crochet. So I'm just going to show you how to end your blanket now to keep this video short. You're going to do a slip stitch. So what you would do is insert your finger into the last stitch, pull up the working yarn so that you have 2 stitches on your finger, and then you're going to take that stitch and pull it through the other one. And then you would grab the yarn, pull it all the way through, and that would create a knot right here on the end. You would pull it through, but I'm not going to cut my yarn, so you would pull it through all the way, tighten it up, and then weave the ends into the edge of your blanket. That way it doesn't come undone. Alright guys, so that is how you hand crochet a blanket. I am going to finish my blanket and then I'll have all of the finished measurements and how many skeins I used on my blog. So if you head to simplymaggie.com, I will have everything there for you, and I'll have that link down below under this video. But just for reference, I have crocheted about a foot of blanket, and I'm still on my first 3 skeins of yarn. So I hope you guys like this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will do my best to answer. I'll see you in my next video.